Hey everybody, welcome to the Kickstarter preview for Darkhorse Rebels and Rogues expansion. Now here I've got the original box for the original game, which was kickstarted about a year ago successfully, and now they're going to come out with an expansion. If you are not familiar with the original base game, it's basically almost a gateway game with sort of a cross between Settlers of Catan and some dice placement, you know, a la Alien Frontiers or maybe Castles of Burgundy. Basically, as you can see, set in the Old West, players would roll dice, take actions, and basically try to build resources to, you know, build out their towns, build out their networks, and try to get victory points that way. Now, what the Rebels and Rogues expansion adds is a whole lot of flavor to the game. It adds some historical flavor, some different characters that you can use that are, you know, historical characters, actual people, as well as some other new ability cards and a really cool new reputation system where you can kind of be the black hat or the white hat, and I'll explain that in my walkthrough. So let's just jump right into how the game's going to work, how it's going to change, you know, the base game, and what you can expect from the expansion. The first thing that you're going to notice with the expansion is some of these action spaces are actually going to be replaced. So you can see here we've actually replaced the sheriff spot with the marshal action space here. And just, you know, for your edification, these are prototype components. Looks like the art is close to being done, but just know that these are prototype components. So you're going to replace several of these spaces here with new action spaces for players to roll their dice and then, you know, take the action. Similar to the base game, there are different scenarios that you can do, and you can kind of mix and match and add the different components into the game. Now, before the game starts, you're going to deal these hidden agenda cards to all of the players. You're going to deal out 4 of these cards to each player, and then they're going to look at these and then choose 2 to keep. And these are going to give you end of game bonus scoring here. So you can see this one, you receive 4 victory points if your cities are 2 hexes away from each other. You receive victory points based on how many resource hexes you control that have a rail on one side, so you can see if you get 6 hexes you get 3 points. And there's just a whole mess of these here, so these will add an interesting little sort of subplot to the game and give you some sort of, you know, various strategies that you can explore each time you play the game. Now, the first martial law scenario in the game tells you to add this marshal space here and replace the sheriff space here. Now, when you take this action, you can notice a couple of different things here. First of all, you're going to take the marshal token here. This is going to allow you to challenge players that have wanted tokens on some of the character cards. Now, character cards are a little bit new. I'll explain that in a second. It also tells you to take 2 white hat reputation, sort of good guy reputation. As well, you're also going to take first in turn order. So we've introduced just a lot of new concepts just with this action space. So let's talk about the character cards, the challenges, and then what is this reputation exactly. So during the game, players will be able to acquire and play these characters here, and this is known as the Rebels and Rogues deck here. There's a couple of different things to notice here. Mainly, you're going to take notice of the reputation here. So you can see this guy has a black hat reputation, and the game comes with these tokens here for black and white hats. And basically what's going to happen is there's spaces some good guys and bad guys. So you can see you've got Black Bart, you've got Blackjack Ketchum, Billy the Kid, Sam Bass, Jesse James, John Wesley Harding, Butch and Sundance. So you've got sort of your criminal elements, some famous folks from, you know, the Old West. And then you've also got some people that are sort of in between, like Big Jim Courtright, you know, Apache Kid. You've also got some guys that are sort of, you know, good guys. Annie Oakley, Bill Tigman, John Slaughter, Pat Garrett, you know, Bat Masterson. A lot of familiar characters from Old West history. So characters are going to be able to use these cards throughout the game, use their special abilities. And then these characters are also going to be able to get wanted tokens on them. And these characters are also going to be able to be challenged and to have sort of like a duel or combat. So let me explain a little bit about that. So if we take a look at 2 of these characters here, and let's say I had Blackjack Ketchum and Billy over here had John Slaughter. If I was challenging a John Slaughter here, basically you can take a look and see the 2 guns there, and he's got 1 gun. So this is the number of dice that you're going to roll, and this is the modifier that you're going to add to the roll. Now, if you defeat the other player by at least 2, then that other player is going to take a wound token on their card. Now, it takes 2 wound tokens to basically capture and then turn that character face down. Now, there's a couple of times that you can challenge a character, so let's talk about that. Now the marshal can always challenge a character that has a wanted token on them. Now how do you get a wanted token? Well, if you notice, some of these new spaces here have a little symbol here, and this basically means that this place can be robbed. So the carnival can be robbed, the trader here can be robbed, and the stagecoach here, this can also be robbed. Now what that means is when anybody takes that action, normally they're going to have to place one silver token on the spot. And this comes from the game bank, not from the player's supply. And silver is basically a breakdown of gold, so every 4 silver adds up to 1 gold. But as these spaces start to acquire silver, then somebody can take an action to go ahead and rob that spot of the silver. So if somebody is taking the rob action to get that silver, then you can also challenge that player, whoever's taking the rob and trying to rob all the silver that's acquired there. Now these characters also have other abilities here. You can see this guy's got a scorpion. That means he's allowed to re-roll dice. We got some other ones here. Like you can see, these also you can choose the type of reputation. Now it's important to note that you have to kind of go one way or the other with the reputation. So once you have, you know, a lot of black hat reputation, it's going to take you some time to be able to kind of tack back and then, you know, go the opposite direction. Some other examples here. This guy requires 3 wounds to be killed or captured, and so there's different, you know, special abilities and different things that players are going to have to learn to deal with here with all these different characters. The next scenario that players might play is called the How the West Was Won scenario, and this is an interesting scenario because it adds some, not just historical people into the game, but also some historical sort of artifacts and buildings and things that you can build. Now these cards here are the progress deck, and you can see these various buildings and different tools and things like that. Now these are similar to the action cards that come with the base game, except when you play these will stay in front of you and sort of persist the effect throughout the game. So this one is, you may use a 3+ to produce 1 additional food resource on any food spot on the produce resource action space. There's just a ton of these in here. So these are really going to change up sort of the different special abilities that you can develop, you know, throughout the game. And there's also 2 new action spaces that are going to be available in this scenario. If you go here, you can see you get a wild die token. You can choose your reputation there, and then you can also take this 4-sided carnival die, which acts the same as the bonus die. And then you can get this interesting thing here. This is the wagon train spot. You can see this actually replaces the market in this scenario here. And when you take this, you're going to be able to take the wagon train here, and you're going to keep this in front of you, sort of like one of the progress cards. And then you can use this basically turn by turn until somebody else takes it, and then they get control of the wagon train. You can see what this does here. It says you may pay any 5 resources to receive 3 silver, or you can pay 1 silver to trade any 3 resources for any 2 resources from the game bank. So this is kind of an interesting sort of thing that you can sort of hold on and sort of, you know, guide, you know, through your areas and things, so to speak, to give you some more interesting trade options through the game. And the expansion also comes with 2 new types of hexes here. Now the players can now take an action to, instead of building a town, they can replace one of the non-ruggedized spots where they already have a town with sort of an improved town token here. So you can see this is going to increase your output of the different resources in the game. And there's also a variant at the back, which is pretty interesting, to add some of these mystery hexes here. Now these are all just different, you know, types of things that you can add in to kind of spice up and, you know, kind of add to the replay value of the game. And I'll explain what some of these do here. So first we've got the Native American tribe spot, and here this comes with some tokens here, and you can actually put these tokens on some of your opponent's towns to harass them. They've got to pay silver or, you know, roll 5+ to collect the tribe token off of the town, or you can do it to receive a reputation and then look at an opponent's cards, including their hidden agenda card. So that's kind of an interesting aspect. You've got a silver mine here that you can actually build a town on and collect silver from. However, you don't get a victory point for having your town on this hex at the end of the game. You've got a buffalo herd spot here, and this comes with these buffalo tokens here. And you can remove these when you go to collect everything in the collection phase. You can remove one of these. You can either get 3 food and a silver, or you may place a die in the jail and remove both buffalo tokens to receive 3 black hat reputation and 2 silver from the bank. So these bonus tiles here are going to give you a lot of versatility and things in the game. So in addition to the characters that come with the base game here, they've also got some new characters here: the homesteader, the scientist, the architect, the blacksmith, the charlatan. Just a lot of extra spice and goodies that you can kind of just throw in the mix here, with the base game. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. So what they've kind of done here is taken almost a strict Euro game with your, worker placement, dice management, resource management, building networks, building towns, and all that good stuff, and then really packed a lot of theme into the game. Now the base game did have some thematic stuff. It has the action cards, which are pretty thematic, and you have the different sort of roles that you could choose at the start of the game. But this really kind of takes it to the next level in that regard. I mean, especially, with the different historical characters. And not only do you have the sort of historical characters, you've got the different buildings and, knickknacks and things that are indicative of the time. But the thing that I really find interesting about this game is the reputation system and how that works. Now, at the end of the game, you get 1 point for every 4 reputation. But like I said before, you've got to kind of go black hat or white hat. But let's say you got like 2 or 3 white hats. And then you're like, you know what, I want to really go and start robbing places, so I'm going to go to the black hat. Now you've got to sort of cancel out their reputation, one way or the other. So if you got 3 white hat and you gain 3 black hat, well, all that's going to do is cancel out your white hats. So you've really got to kind of focus, and you can kind of, ride it sort of morality neutral at the start of the game, and then really kind of choose, as the game kind of develops, which way you want to go, kind of based on the cards that you're dealt and things like that. So that's something I haven't seen in a board game, at least that I can think of at all. And I've seen it like in role-playing games on the computer, and MMOs on the computer, but it's something that I didn't know that I was missing from a board game. So that's a very interesting, kind of new mechanic and theme, is being able to sort of, tack yourself to sort of like one faction or one reputation side or the other. Really, that's a really cool thing. And it really kind of gets back to the theme. It kind of sticks with that kind of Old West theme. There's been a few Old West games. You can think of games like Bang or Carson City or Way Out West, which I haven't played. But this one, it's not just kind of Western tacked on to some Euro mechanics or to a party game. It really kind of invests in that sort of, for lack of a better word, kind of Ameritrashy side, and the extra thematic flavor that's really added to the game. So I think it's going to be cool for people that are huge fans of the base game. It'll definitely add some replayability. Like I said, you can kind of mix and match, the different things. You can add the hidden tiles, the character cards, the buildings, and they kind of give you scenarios to start off with. But I don't see why people couldn't just go in there and say, I really like the reputations and the character cards and the gunfights, and just add those to the base game. Now, I haven't play tested that. Maybe the designer will pop in and says, no, don't do that because it's out of balance. But I think, as you get to know the different components of the expansion, you can kind of custom tailor your experience that way, and really kind of play in that kind of Old West feel. So I think that's really kind of a nice aspect that they've really taken that approach with this expansion instead of just adding a couple of things here and there. It's definitely a very modularized, beefy expansion with a lot of stuff really packed into the box. So anyway, that's Darkhorse Rebels and Rogues, and so take a look at it and take a look at the Kickstarter campaign. Thanks.